In the world of money, trust is the only real currency. You deposit it, and you expect it to be there when you come back. But what happens when the people running the vault see your deposit as their personal checking account? That is the FTX story. A $32 billion empire built on a revolutionary idea, promoted with celebrity smiles and blessed by Washington insiders. An empire that evaporated in 9 days, revealing a simple, old-fashioned hole where $8 billion of customer money used to be. In early 2022, FTX felt less like a company and more like the future arriving ahead of schedule. In January, it closed a $400 million funding round that valued the exchange at a staggering $32 billion. It was a titan, sitting comfortably among the world's top crypto exchanges by volume. The numbers were breathtaking. Leaked financials for 2021 showed over $1 billion in revenue, with operating income hitting $272 million. In the fever dream of a crypto bull market, FTX wasn't just a business, it was a money machine. And they spent that money buying the look of permanence. The company name was plastered across the Miami Heat's home court in a 19-year, $135 million deal. They bought a Super Bowl ad where comedian Larry David, the patron saint of skepticism, dismissed FTX as he dismissed the wheel and the light bulb, telling viewers, "Don't miss out." The message was clear. This isn't some fringe experiment. This is the next big thing. Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, and Steph Curry smiled for the cameras, lending their hard-won credibility to the brand. Trust wasn't just earned, it was purchased at scale. The headquarters was a $30 million penthouse in the Bahamas, a sun-drenched command center where a small circle of executives reportedly lived, worked, and blurred the lines between all three. From this island paradise, founder Sam Bankman-Fried, known as SBF, cultivated an image of a rumpled, brilliant wunderkind. He was also one of the largest political donors in America, publicly steering $40 million to Democratic-aligned groups in the 2022 cycle, while later claiming he gave a similar amount to Republicans through darker channels. He testified before Congress, pitching himself as the thoughtful adult in the room, ready to help write the rules for the industry. The charm offensive worked. Washington and Wall Street saw a partner, not a problem. But the masterstroke was the halo. SBF wasn't just a billionaire, he was a philosopher king, a champion of effective altruism. This was the idea that one should use data and reason to do the most good possible. For SBF, it meant earning to give, amassing a colossal fortune not for himself, but to one day give it all away to solve humanity's biggest problems. It was a narrative that inoculated him against criticism. How could you question the motives of a man whose stated goal was to save the world? This philosophy took concrete form in February 2022 with the launch of the FTX Future Fund. It pledged to grant up to $1 billion to ambitious projects tackling AI safety and pandemic prevention. The fund's team was a who's who of the altruism community, and their involvement gave FTX a moral sheen no Super Bowl ad could buy. But on November 10, 2022, as the empire crumbled, the entire team resigned in a public letter. They wrote, "We are now unable to perform our work or process grants. We have fundamental questions about the legitimacy and integrity of the business operations." The halo didn't just fade, it shattered. The fatal cracks, however, weren't new. They were engineered into the foundation from day one. In its early days, FTX struggled to get its own bank accounts. The solution was a shortcut that would prove catastrophic. Customers wanting to deposit US dollars onto the FTX exchange were instructed to wire their money to bank accounts controlled by Alameda Research, SBF's private crypto hedge fund. Internally, FTX's software would then credit the customer's account. The exchange's ledger said you had money, but the actual cash was sitting in the hedge fund's bank. The line between customer funds and company capital wasn't just blurred, it was erased from the start. FTX publicly boasted about its sophisticated, automated risk engine. It was designed to liquidate any user whose trades went sour, protecting the exchange from losses. It was a fortress. But according to later testimony from co-founder Gary Wang, he built a secret backdoor on SBF's orders. In the code, he added a feature called Allow Negative and applied it only to Alameda. This meant Alameda could withdraw billions of dollars from FTX, customer dollars, without posting collateral and without ever facing liquidation. Insiders testified this secret line of credit was effectively $65 billion. The risk engine was theater, a set of rules that applied to everyone except the one entity that posed the biggest risk of all. And what propped up Alameda's shaky balance sheet? FTT, the crypto token minted out of thin air by its sister company, FTX. Alameda held billions of dollars worth of FTT. It then used that FTT as collateral to borrow real money from other lenders and, through its secret backdoor, from FTX itself. This was a dizzying circular logic. FTX created a token. Its success gave the token value. Alameda pledged that token to borrow customer money from FTX, which it used for its own risky bets. It was a Jenga tower where the most critical blocks were ones they had printed themselves. As long as no one pulled, the tower stood. When veteran insolvency expert John J. Ray III, the man who cleaned up the Enron bankruptcy, took over FTX on November 11th, his assessment was biblical. In a court filing, he wrote, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information." He found a company run by a very small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals. There was no central cash management. Corporate funds were used to buy homes for employees. Invoices were approved with personalized emojis on chat apps. Financial records were a mess of spreadsheets and QuickBooks files. Billions of dollars were being managed with less oversight than a college dorm's pizza fund. The broader crypto market of 2022 provided the tremors that would bring the tower down. The collapse of other crypto projects like Terra Luna sent a wave of fear through the system. Credit tightened. Lenders to Alameda, who had accepted FTT as collateral, started getting nervous. They began calling in their loans, demanding repayment in actual US dollars, not house brand tokens. Alameda's venture capital bets were souring. The fund was bleeding money, and it turned to the only place it had limitless credit, the FTX customer cookie jar. The Allow Negative feature was now a fire hose, siphoning deposits to plug holes in the hedge fund. Then, the clock started ticking. On November 2nd, the crypto news site CoinDesk published a leaked copy of Alameda's balance sheet. It confirmed what many had suspected. The fund was massively exposed to FTT. The story laid the Jenga tower's blueprint bare for the world to see. For a few days, the market simmered. SBF tried to calm nerves, tweeting that a competitor was spreading false rumors. But the question was now in the open. What happens if the price of FTT falls? On Sunday, November 6th, the match was lit. Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of rival exchange Binance, tweeted that his firm would be liquidating its entire position in FTT, citing recent revelations. This was a cannon shot. Panic erupted. FTX was hit with a bank run. About $5 billion in withdrawal requests flooded the exchange in a single day. The price of FTT began to crater. As it fell, Alameda's collateral vanished, turning the firm insolvent and exposing the multi-billion-dollar hole on FTX's books where customer funds should have been. On November 7th, SBF tweeted, "FTX is fine, assets are fine." It would become one of finance's most infamous lies. By November 8th, with withdrawals halted and the company on the brink, a lifeline appeared. Binance announced it had signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire its flailing rival. The market breathed a momentary sigh of relief. A white knight had arrived, but the rescue was short-lived. On November 9th, after a single day of looking at FTX's books, Binance walked away. Their public statement was brutal. "The issues are beyond our control or ability to help." The freefall was now unstoppable. On November 11th, 2022, just 9 days after the first leak, FTX, Alameda, and over 130 affiliated companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Sam Bankman-Fried's resignation was announced. The $32 billion empire was officially dead. And then, in a final chaotic twist, hours after the filing, hundreds of millions of dollars began draining from FTX wallets. The new management team called it a hack. The final tally was $477 million, siphoned away in the dead of night. To this day, it's unclear if it was an outside job or a final insider grab. The legal fallout was swift. One by one, the inner circle pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate. Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison, FTX co-founder Gary Wang, and engineering director Nishad Singh. They stood in court and told the same story. Sam Bankman-Fried had directed them to build the secret backdoor, to lie to lenders, and to use customer money. Their testimony painted a devastating picture of a fraud orchestrated from the very top, hidden behind a veil of genius and altruism. The friends who had once shared a Bahamian penthouse were now the prosecution's star witnesses against him. Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas on December 12, 2022, and extradited to the U.S. His trial began in October 2023. He took the stand in his own defense, offering a narrative of mistakes, mismanagement, and good intentions gone awry. He claimed he didn't know the specifics of Alameda's finances. The prosecution, in turn, portrayed him as a calculating liar who knew exactly where the money was going. On November 2, 2023, the jury took just 4 hours to convict him on all 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy. At his sentencing on March 28, 2024, the judge was unsparing, saying SBF's attempt to craft a benevolent public image was, in part, an act. The sentence came down: 25 years in federal prison and forfeiture of $11 billion. But in a final, strange twist, a ghost from FTX's high-flying past provided a path to partial recovery. In 2021, Alameda and FTX had invested some $500 million into an artificial intelligence startup called Anthropic. As the AI boom of 2023 took off, that stake's value skyrocketed, becoming worth billions. This single lucky bet became the most valuable asset in the bankruptcy estate. Thanks to the Anthropic windfall and other aggressive asset recovery efforts, the new management has proposed a plan to repay 98% of creditors at least 118% of their claims in cash. It's a stunning outcome, but with a painful caveat. Customers are being paid back the dollar value of their crypto as of the November 2022 bankruptcy date, not the much higher prices many of those assets would later reach. The lesson of FTX is ultimately not about crypto. It's about the oldest sins in finance dressed up in new technology. It shows that charisma and a noble mission can be used to mask profound irresponsibility. It proves that internal controls are not a bureaucratic nuisance. They are the bedrock of trust. A system with a secret exception for insiders is not a system at all. It's a stage. The 9-day collapse of FTX felt like a lightning strike. But the storm had been gathering for years. It was built into the code, into the commingled bank accounts, into the culture of rule-breaking justified by a higher purpose. The company sold a story of a better, smarter, more ethical future. But when that story finally collided with a balance sheet, the story didn't just bend, it broke. And in finance, the balance sheet always wins.